welcome back to the Netherkast. It's episode 31. I'm Black Cyborg, as always, joined by temporary username Shadaloo and Razor's Edge. Last time on Dragon Ball Z, no, I'm just kidding. On the Netherkast, we talked about Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and apologize to our listeners' ears for the continuedness of this.
He's powering up. Give it another 15 minutes and maybe the episode will move forward a little bit.
There we go.
5 episodes later. All right, I'm done.
The balls are nerd, guys.
Principal saying something Kakarot.
Apologies to your ears. Okay, so we were talking on the last episode about variations, and we said we'd get into it next time since we were kind of running low on time as it was. So we're going to start off this time with variations and just kind of go over our thoughts and debate on whether they're good, they're bad, pros and cons, yada, yada, yada. First off, I will start by saying, to me, variations are... I could take them or leave them. I definitely see the good that they do. I also see the bad that they do. I feel, for me personally, I'm more affected by the bad that they do because I feel like take Kenshi, for example. I like certain moves in different variations. I want to have all those moves, but I don't want to play all variations because they require you to learn new combos, yada, yada, yada. I just don't want to do that. Or a better example for me personally is, obviously I played a crap ton of Katana when I played, and I wanted to play Assassin variation. I like the mask, I like the stripe across the eyes, I like the theme of an Assassin Katana, but her Royal Storm is the one that had the little gust of wind that goes on the fan lift, so it was easier to catch them to do better combos, in my opinion. So yeah, and then that and the flying butt and crap like that, and just the assassin had a couple things that I just didn't use. I'd always forget to use the sharpen, and I rarely could pull off a parry, so I just didn't even try at that point. So it just kind of sucked. I was left with just the running attack for assassin. So then eventually I just dropped assassin and went with Royal Storm, which sucks because I like having the mask. So you also have the visual element to variation. So therefore, I don't like that different things are split up. Like Jason, you only use the machete in one variation. That sucks. But on the flip side, which I'm sure Temp will get into and everyone else will touch upon, is it does add more matchups, which is essential to the metagame and just the overall tourney play and just the competitiveness and the viability of each character. So that's essential. So like I said, I'm pretty neutral on it. Whatever. It's not going to bother me whether they stay or leave. That's me. I'm out.
Yeah, I don't know that it does add more matchups. That's kind of my problem with it. Like, a lot of what I've seen is people going, this is the best variation for this character, don't bother with the other two, regardless of, like, counterpicking or anything.
They're wrong. I can explain why they're wrong, but I'll let you continue, because I have a lot to say about that. We're finding out that's not true, but go on.
I mean, it might not be true. It's just that, I mean, we're still pretty early in the lifespan of this game, and that's what I've seen the most of. And I don't necessarily agree, because, like, for example, everybody says, Dragonfire is the best Liu Kang variation? But I mostly play the Fiery Fist, because I find that, I get the best damage if I activate the buff and then do the Windmill Punch. I mean, you can combo out of the bicycle kick, which is more useful for people who are good at long combos, but I'm not really good at, juggling from one thing into another thing or resetting or anything like that. And I also really like having the parry. So, I mean, there's probably an argument to be made by both sides. The thing that concerns me is, I mean, I like the idea of being able to experiment with a character and having this place to go, well, what if, say, we threw Katana's weapon, or Jade's weapons at Katana and changed the way she fights so that she's throwing the boomerang instead of the fans and all that. Or what if we took, Goro and we had a version where he's shooting Kintaro's fireballs. But the flip side of that is then you can't put Jade or Kintaro in the game. You're stealing iconic traits from other characters in order to sort of fill in this empty space that you have on your main roster. And I don't know, it sort of takes something away. And then you've got characters like Takeda and Kung Jin who have too many tools for no good reason. Like, why does Takeda need laser swords and why does Jin need a chakram, you know? They already have so much shit.
It's a lot of things Kung Jin doesn't need. We can make a list of shit, but...
Well, at least most of his moves revolve around using the bow either as a bow or as a staff. That chakram is just sort of a non sequitur.
Supposedly, it's a lot better than people think. Supposedly, everyone is sleeping on that.
I mean, I'm sure it might be good in gameplay. I just think that in terms of, like, design, like, concept, it sort of muddies his waters. Because the only reason it's there is to have some sort of connecting element, like to remind you of his cousin's hat. But his cousin and his hat are already in the fucking game.
I was about to say the exact same thing. Never use it. Don't like it.
And then
Cool
you've got Sonya's drone, because we've got 3 variations. Oh god, what do we do with fucking Sonya? Let's give her a fucking army drone that shoots shit at you or gives her grenades.
But that's the whole character, though. None of her variations, except for the Spec Ops, that's the only one that makes sense as a Sonya attribute.
Yeah, and
all
I mean,
the other ones feel random as hell.
I mean, we've talked before about how that's been a problem for Sonya her entire lifespan as a character, all the way back to MK1. Her moves don't make any fucking sense. Like, she's just a regular human being, but she can fly and shoot lasers out of her hands and blow fire kisses.
And somehow it's still boring.
Over time, they've made her make more sense. Like, the square wave is gone and now she's just an acrobatic kicker. The lasers come from a device on her wrist. The kisses have been replaced by dust in your eyes. But now she's got the drone. So again, she kind of has too much shit that doesn't all fit together.
It's more of a Sonya problem than a variation problem, though. I think they just ran out of ideas.
As an example, I've seen it with other characters, too.
Well, even in MK9, Sonya didn't really make any sense. Out of nowhere, they gave her a dive kick. Okay, fine, I guess that's not too much of a stretch.
The dive kick is sort of an air version of the arc kick, which is the new square wave. So I can sort of see why it's there. It also sort of recalls when she had Liu Kang's flying kick in Deadly Alliance.
But we had characters with good dive kicks, in my opinion. I think it would have been a tool better distributed to, say, someone like Ermac, who has a lift. Well, not a lift, but a float. That would have been a good tool. That would have been a nice mix-up. You have to get, if you go aerial, he can dive kick. If he goes ground and blocks and tries to bait the kick, then you get slammed in the ground for damage.
Yeah, I could see that too. At the same time, Ermac is also a character who has too many moves already.
Yeah, although for some reason he's not. I don't want to say he's struggling, but I think Master of Souls is good, but it's not so much because the character's good. It's because the ball is good. The soul ball is an amazing tool.
What I think is Ermac is mid-tier, and that's probably a decent place for him. It's just that people expect better because there's a lot of hype around Ermac as a character.
I think he'll get better. He might.
It'd be like if Sub-Zero was really low tier, people would be mad because he's Sub-Zero and they want him to be awesome.
Good thing that's never happened. Yeah, but like I said, I have a lot to say about this. Shadaloo, did you want to chime in first before I go into my 5-point rant?
I don't have much to say that Razer hasn't done already. I really, really do appreciate the variation system. It's the logical extension of something that they've been trying to get to work since Deadly Alliance. But no, I don't like when they fuck around and make other characters obsolete, point in fact, and I don't. It's really hard to get the balancing done right so that every single variation is just as useful as the next. I do appreciate how they did try to make some characters more beginner-friendly by not offering as much variation between the variations in terms of core mechanics and combos and gameplay. Just Reptile. He's different gimmicks, so he's a good starting point for people. I like what they tried to do, even if they didn't completely succeed. That's about all I can really say. I've never tried to make sense of Sonya's moves. I've just kind of accepted it.
Yeah, I don't know. It just bugs me when a character doesn't make sense because, like, so many of them do. Like, and I've talked about this before about my expectations for Tanya, and we'll get into Tanya more later, but Sonya's a good example of, like, I want everybody's moves to have, like, an origin story. Like, if you were designing moves for Green Lantern, everything he does would be a big green construct that comes out of his ring. If you're designing moves for Sub-Zero, everything's ice. If you're designing moves for Sonya, it's all this random shit all over the place. She's built the same way as Dairyu and Darius. They're fucking randomized creative characters, and that really bothers me.
You don't want to see Green Arrow or Green Lantern with a dive kick? Not a thing. Well, that would make sense actually. Why shouldn't he have a dive kick? He can fucking fly.
Have a dive kick. I mean, he'd surround himself with a jet and dive bomb you.
That's how. All planes and fists.
Yeah, that's what he does.
This has nothing to do with anything, but they really dropped the ball on Green Lantern. How did that character turn out so boring and Injustice? You had the whole world at your disposal, and you made this boring. Anyway, but I guess
they dropped the ball when they decided not to make him John Stewart. I'm sorry to say it.
Well, he was.
I don't know about that. I think Jon Stewart gets a lot of hype just because people want there to be a black guy. He's the most of all four Lanterns.
Okay, fair enough on a character level, but Hal was not hot shit until that last Green Lantern comic started. He was dumb as a brick and had borderline no personality. At the very least, Jon Stewart creates interesting, inventive, gigantic, complicated machinery that actually works. Hal? Yeah. I got a big old clown fist for you, buddy. Her. Anyway,
I sort of like the sort of Han Solo, Indiana Jones, jump in with a big fist attitude of Hal. I just think John, the idea that he's an architect so you can see all the detail in the shit he makes is a cool idea, but they never really use it. They mostly just boil him down to, I was a sniper in the Marines, hoorah! So he, makes a fucking gun all the time.
I'm just saying, I think he'd have been a better choice for Injustice. That's all.
Yeah,
At least on a purely visual
level.
I
would have gone with Kyle, because he likes to make, anime mechs and weird, crazy stuff like that.
Tomato. Your preference.
Honestly, you could make an entire Green Lantern fighting game with the whole roster just being different colored lanterns.
You really could, and I would like to see.
And they'd all play differently. That's the.
Larfleeze should totally be like a Mokujin type character who just steals other people's moves and sets. Be wonderful.
What would the Blue Lanterns do? Well,
sit there and hope not to get.
There's a whole rock paper scissors mechanic where one color can beat another color, and as far as individual powers, the Star Sapphires have a lot of sort of mind control involved, and all their constructs are sort of made out of crystals. The Red Lanterns puke fiery blood that eats through shit. Orange can sort of steal energy to recharge himself from everybody else. Blues are like a support who can make other people stronger. Indigo can copy everybody because the idea of compassion is relating to other people's emotions.
As long as I get a free reset after I do the compassion shit. All right, well, going on to variations again. We'll start off with a big criticism. We have to delegate moves to different variations, and we can't utilize our favorite tools in one variation. Yeah, that's the big one everyone's pissed about.
Raiden is teleport guy, so fuck that.
Well, there is a counterpoint to that. Before I even get to that, I think there's a question of, do you want the moves to be compiled, or do you want the moves to be good? Because let's say we do put a teleport that's viable in Thunder God. Raiden now has some of the best footsies in the game. He has some of the best pressure and mix-ups in the game. And now he's got a teleport for mobility. So we're going to have to... One of these is going to have to be nerfed into hell. Either we're going to have a shit teleport, or we're going to have weak footsies. We don't have that dilemma with variations. If you like the teleport, you can use it, You don't get the godlike pressure anymore. But you got your favorite tool, so now every tool can be good. You can utilize whichever favorite one you want. Now, do you want to use them at the same time? In a way, and this is the counterpoint I was mentioning, you already can. Raiden does have the teleport in Thunder God. It's now a chain combo. It's not used for mobility.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's a good way to balance that, I think. And a lot of characters have something like that, If you want to utilize, say, the clone and Sub-Zero's, Cryomancer, well, it's not a tool, but it's in his win pose. It's there. It's part of the aesthetic. It's a weak compromise. I think they could have done better. I think the clone throw could have been a chain combo, or I don't know, something. It could have done something creative with it. So well, I think
the Sub-Zero is one where the variations are really well designed, because take Unbreakable versus Grandmaster. The icy counter and the clone do the exact same thing, so I can appreciate that he's got one in one and one in the other, because there are people who like the icy counter and there are people who like the clone, and they wouldn't make sense both being on the same moveset. Sub-Zero is pretty well designed in that regard. The ones that bug me are the ones where they had to run out of ideas and steal from a character who's not in the game, or stuff like that, or like, for example, Jason not having machete in every version. Or, and the thing is, like, I can understand what you're saying about balance, and you can't put every move in because then a certain character would be too good, but it's a hard argument to see if, when, like, imagine if not just Raiden had good footsies and a teleport, but everybody had all their moves. You can't really predict who would be, sort of falling behind compared to each other in that scenario.
You may have had a more... Well, go on, Shadowloo.
This works better for characters who have had a long lifespan and a lot of variations over their moveset. Like Sub-Zero or Scorpion. Sub-Zero's had, 10, 12 different kinds of ice-related moves over the course of history. But Raiden...
Yeah.
That's the problem. I wouldn't... he's had a lightning toss, the Superman torpedo move, whatever you want to call that thing now, Flying Thunder God, and the teleport. And out of all of them, I don't know. I feel like the short of the Superman torpedo, which is probably his trademark, the teleport's one I never would have taken away. I don't know. I think it actually would have sooner taken away the lightning bolts in one variation and focused on some close range. At the very least...
Yeah, Raiden could have a version that's more projectiles and a version that's more grappler, because he also does a lot of grabbing people and shocking people's hands.
At the very least, I would have kept the teleport in all variations, but I would have drastically altered the speed at which it came out and recovered. That's all I'm saying. I wouldn't take away, Ken's Tatsumaki if I was playing a Street Fighter game. That seems wrong to me. Just wrong.
Well, here's another example of where I could, variations create a good idea, but there's a huge downside, is Possessed Kenshi. That is a really cool idea for changing up Kenshi's moves and story. The whole idea of his sword is broken and his ancestors are coming out and they're sort of angry or taking him over, whatever they're supposed to be doing. The problem is you can't have just Possessed Kenshi, because then Classic Kenshi is gone unless you have the variation system. And the third thing is Possessed Kenshi isn't fucking canon, so it doesn't matter.
Nor is Mournful Jade.
Cool thing and then not fucking use it in the story.
Because the story script got cut in half before they greenlighted it.
And another example of that is Balanced Liu Kang, where he can switch between light and dark. Well, he never comes back from hell, so he's only using the dark in the story. Where does this light heaven energy he's got in his gameplay coming from? What is that supposed to mean? Nothing, because it's not canon. Fuck you.
No, I don't have a counter-argument for that. Well, go on, Shadowloo.
That's true, but the oodles of tournament players out there who like that variation, they'll say fuck you right back.
Yeah, that's there's a disconnect between gameplay and story.
I'd love it to be idealized. I'm just saying, some people love that shit, and it's sad, but some people, amazingly, a lot of fighting gamers, don't care about the story in fighting games. Can you imagine?
Yeah, but
there's definitely a way to please both crowds. Instead of calling it Possessed, call it Stabby, and now his Astral Kenshi just stab you. They do like a stab low, or he does a stabby teleport, and everyone's happy. You're not making shit up. That's the problem here. This isn't a variation problem. This is a making shit up problem.
For variations, if one was actually called Stabby, I would demand that they have the announcer actually enunciate each and every single one. Stabby Kenshi.
It's the real name of Cutthroat. That's what I call it. It's not Cutthroat. It's Stabby. I call it Stabby.
That's fine.
I'm going to do it. No one's going to stop me. But
there's Stabby Melina, too. So
there is. No, she's very stabby. She's been stabbing for a while, too. Kano's kind of new at the stabbing.
Every day I'm stabby.
Yeah, you stab a lot. Oh, man, your Melina's leveled up, man. God, those sets were good.
I didn't think that I could actually compete with your Shinnok from what I was hearing. Glad to see that I can every now and then.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the next set. Because I took Melina into the lab, because you're really good at fucking placing those rolls. I realized I was getting reversaled a lot. And then in our earlier sets, I realized I was getting reversal a lot. I'm like, okay, well, I'll do this instead. and it was working, but clearly you put some thought into it, and now you're switching that up in a new way. So I gotta rethink those roles. I gotta put some time into that for sure. But okay.
I just remember, like, at one point, I'm like, wait a minute, he's doing everything he possibly can to keep me the fuck away, and alright, I have size, I can make this work. And then you were like, wait, no, teleports. And I was like, oh, fuck. This is how I describe gameplay sets, folks. This happened, and then that happened, and then fuck. Pretty much.
There was a thing, and then the thing happened. Although, God, Praetor will tell you, I empty jump so much with Shinnok now. I do like 3 consecutive empty neutral jumps, just because I know my teleport's gonna get blown the fuck up if I'm not careful now. I can't throw that out anymore. I really do kind of miss day 1 Shinnok, where I could just fucking own the sky for like 2 rounds, but I can't do that anymore. People learned, people figured it out. But Shinnok's a good example, though, for variations. We'll definitely get to him in a few minutes, but let's talk about the next criticism. The next criticism is that there's a dominant variation, and that makes the other 2 variations obsolete. Now, I don't think this is true, but let's assume it is. Let's assume that there is a dominant variation. That dominant variation still utilizes a style. Say it's a zoning variation. Well, if I can't zone well just as a fighting game player, it doesn't make sense. It's not optimal for me to use that. So it makes sense that I would use Cryomancer over Grandmaster, even if Grandmaster, and even I agree Grandmaster is probably the superior variation. But Cryomancer is fucking solid, and that complements my style. So it's like, if we said, well, there's always going to be a dominant variation, we could just as easily say there's always going to be a dominant character. Yet we never saw top 8, Cabals through and through. There was always a really nice amount of character diversity in MK9. And for that reason, your style is your style, Thoughts?
I fear that we're bordering on what I call the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 problem. Because if you really want to kind of get down to it and look at each variation as its own, well, as many as you can, kind of separate incarnation of a character, it's kind of going to be a matter of inevitability that you're going to get your Dan Hibikis and your roles. What people are really worried about is the fact that we're going to have, when actually the game turns out to it, like, just the roster's worth of good characters to use. 1 variation per person. And that is unfortunate. I think it's a valid criticism, but I think it's one that's easily addressable because I don't think that there are many useless variations out there, just some with better uses or more aggressive potential than others.
But tools carry over, though. Even if you do go Cryomancer instead of Grandmaster, you still have a great low and a great overhead. And on jump-in, that's a pure 50-50. That both lead into a combo with meter. So I still think you're always going to have that. As long as the core character has something dangerous, I think you can get away with making a superior variation, but still have a viable variation right behind it. That's what Marvel 2 didn't have. Marvel 2 did not have good core characters. It was a lot of trash, and then there was Sentinel and Psylocke assist. Not even Psylocke, just the assist. So that was a problem,
Rocket Punch.
Fly, unfly. Oh, man. But we're seeing a lot of cool stuff in terms of style, at least. And people are using counter variations. We're seeing people change variations. We see it quite a lot with for Johnny Cage, for one thing. People really like A-List. I think A-List is the stronger overall character. But that back one, too, is unbelievable. That is really good. And that's one reason why I don't think we're ever going to see Quan Chi dominate a top 8 ever again. Is because I think he gets blown up by pressure characters really badly. No reversal, slow normals, unsafe chains. So I think that's a good example right there. Melina even. People are using Ravenous quite a bit. Her damage is pretty good, and those throw setups are really nice, I don't think we saw Piercing at Commonwealth at all. I think Softface used only Ravens.
I'll have to look into that.
There's like a way to satisfy both camps, where it's like,
Definitely.
On one hand, you've got people who like variations for a lot of valid reasons. On the other hand, there's this conceptual problem where, first of all, if you're designing 3 variations for every character, you're going to have a smaller roster. And second, you're stealing shit from characters who some people would maybe like to be in the game. Like, there's an argument to be made that, well, the katana with all the wind moves makes it so that they're not going to put in Fujin. And it's like, what if in the next game variations came back, but everybody only had 2 instead of 3, and then you could maybe, because there's always one that feels like filler. I mean, as much as you can make an argument that there's not always a dominant one and that there's a good reason to have them, I don't know that there's any character where all 3 are good.
You know what the really funny thing is? If we do this, we're veering right back into like Samurai Showdown 3 technology era. Seriously, do you remember that game?
Never played it.
Samurai Showdown 3 was like, it was the first game, I think, well, probably not the first, but at least one of them, to have like 2 different kinds of variations for characters, Slash and Bust. And basically, Slash was more aggressive. If I remember right, Slash was more aggressive, Bust was more defensive. Commentators, feel free to help me out on that. I'm probably wrong. But if I'm remembering right, there was a couple of move variations between each variation for every character. It's really funny how we come full circle.
There's also, I think, something I'd like to see is, I like the idea of the little accessories to denote each variation, or, the visual cues. I like the idea of possessed Kenshi. I just wish it were an actual thing in the story. So I'd like to see, in a game where variations come back, each variation represents a different version of the character, and maybe this could be something they would want to do if they were actually going to do like a Crisis-style multiverse game where like current Liu Kang meets like zombie Liu Kang, and maybe there's like a Liu Kang from his MK9 ending where he became a fire god, and like original Liu Kang, and all these different versions would fight a little differently, or like you'd have a Sub-Zero and one variation would represent Bi-Han, one would be like Cyber Sub-Zero, and one would be Kuai Liang, something like that.
I'm thinking, because that would be tough for me, because there's some variations I don't use just because I don't like the visual cues. Summoner is a good example of that. I hate those glowing spikes. I think they look tacky as shit. And I feel like in terms of execution overall in the game, it looks really bad. With Kung Lao, he's got 9-volt batteries in his tunic. Reptile's got a belt he bought at Hot Topic. A lot of them just look like shit. They look really bad to me. I lose my bandana with Kenshi if I go,
But what I'm suggesting here isn't like, hey, there's a glowing thingy on his outfit. It's, this variation is specifically for an alternate costume. So, like, you're playing Sub-Zero, there's a Bi-Han costume and a Kuai Liang costume, and one of them doesn't have a weird glowing thing, he just looks like that guy.
That might be worse, though. What if you don't like Bi-Han?
Like, when you're playing free mode, you can pick whatever variation you want, but in story, this one is always used by...
Okay.
It's always used by Kuai Liang.
Now I follow.
It's actually part of the story as opposed to an MKX where, like, when Takeda fights his dad in that flashback to his training with Scorpion, that's possessed Kenshi for no reason.
Yeah, no, I mean, as long as I'm not restricted to it, that's a good idea. Because I don't want to be Bi-Han. I want to be Kuai Liang. And if Cryomancer was Bi-Han only, that would drive me nuts. That would be the no bandana Kenshi times 1,000. So, yeah, okay, I can get behind that. That seems harmless to me.
Well,
Seems like you'd have to have it.
There are examples where it would be a weird fit. Like, for example, if Cyber Sub were a variation of Sub-Zero, or Cyber Smoke were a variation of Smoke, you can't have human Sub-Zero shooting bombs out of his chest, so I don't know how they'd handle that.
You at the very least have to give your characters some reason to change their outfits during the story mode, which they never seem to really do when it's convenient, or for any particular good reason.
Yeah, that always frustrates me, because in the earlier games, there was a reason when a character changes clothes. Like, when Sub-Zero went unmasked, he was deliberately throwing the ninja look away because he left the Ninja Clan. I wish there was more of that in the story.
A lot of them don't make sense. Like in the cinematic, before you fight Sub-Zero as Johnny Cage, he pulls out his sword and tries to stab Cage. And then when you fight him, he's an unbreakable. I'm like, shouldn't he be in Cryomancer? Maybe use the one where he has a fucking sword. I don't know. But they went that direction for some reason.
Yeah.
He was like, you know what? That's the sword. I'm just going to pound him with my fists.
Well,
Like,
this
punching
I
his
think
fists.
what I'm really saying is there's no meaningful character development in story mode. A moment never comes where a guy has like a meaningful reason to change his outfit, like Sub-Zero leaving the clan and casting his ninja mask aside. That sort of drama never happens in these games' story modes. They're a little too shallow for that.
Yeah, I don't see that changing, but what's up, Shadowloo?
I just wikied Samurai Showdown 3 and I was right. It did happen in that game. And yeah, Slash was the regular, nice version of the character, more or less, and Bust was the more angry and aggressive. And you did have characters like Nakaruru, who, in their Slash variation, had her pet hawk, and her Bust variation had a pet wolf. So, yeah. And this thing came out in 1995. 20 years ago.
It's sort of a legendary game, but no one's played it. Everyone knows the name, but it's hard to find people who have a copy of it.
It's hard to find SNK in the mood where they care about it and they don't make it into, kind of, what are they doing these days? Oh, yes, pachinko machines. I think a Samurai Shodown pachinko machine came out a couple of months ago, and
Well,
I kind of died a little bit.
There's a reason for that. People don't play video games in Japan anymore unless they're on a cell phone. The console market is actually dying overseas for some weird reason.
Dude.
It's just the culture there, I guess.
Breath of Fire 6 is a mobile game. I have no living gods left. Everything I've ever loved is a lie. It's all dead.
There's still the American market.
And they still have arcades in Japan. That's like the only country in the world where arcades are still kind of a thing. I don't know how well they're doing, but they haven't been forced to close down. That's a good thing. Or a bad thing. I'm impartial, to be honest with you. Skullgirls is getting an arcade release in Japan, so...
Nice.
Supposedly,
Very
the
well.
second... Yeah, and I think... you look at Skullgirls, and I'm thinking Japanese people would love this shit, but we'll see. I guess going back to just the viability of variations, if people don't like it, I have a feeling this has a strong chance of not coming back. I think it was a lot of work on their end.
Well, here's the thing. Even if it was really successful, the way his design philosophy is, let's experiment with a thing, and then in the next game we experiment with a new thing. Like, this is too engine fundamental. It's not gonna be like X-Rays, where it will become a standard.
And that's the thing about Ed Boon. I think this is the one time where I'm actually okay with them reinventing the wheel. Because every game they do it. And they don't even just reinvent the wheel. They give it like a chainsaw and a glowing codpiece. They go all out whenever they make a new game.
Yeah.
And they make new mistakes. There's no point learning from the old ones because they make new ones. Although that's not entirely fair. Hits now trade. That's a good thing. There's no input bug. Although there's a horrible option select, which in my opinion is almost as bad. But that's Praetor and me were talking about that. We'll definitely go more into that in the Warrior Shrine. But yeah, just they never can learn from their mistakes because they're always making a brand new device. There's always a new invention. Like this time, I might be okay with that though, for the first time ever.
I think there's an upside and a downside to that. I mean, the upside is obviously you don't want the franchise to become like Tekken or Soul Calibur, where a new game comes out and nobody in the world cares because it's the same game as the last one.
But that's the extreme, though, because, I mean, not only do they not make new features in the game, but they literally they import moves from Soul Calibur 5 into Tekken 7. That looks really bad. Yeah. Like super animations. That's horrible. And Tekken 7, there's a lot of pessimism going into that game. A lot of Tekken players are not happy with it.
If you look at all the character design, there's, I think, a good reason for that pessimism. I don't know what the direction of that franchise is anymore. It's kind of become Virtua Fighter, where characters aren't characters. They're just a personification of a country.
Yeah, you could argue much is the same as Street Fighter, but Tekken doesn't...
The only character I've seen for 7 who's new, who looks like anything at all, is fucking Heihachi's wife.
Who shoots tigers out of her hoo-ha.
Yeah, she has a tiger uppercut where a tiger literally comes out.
Of her hoo-ha?
Of her hoo-ha.
Out of the ground.
Hoo-ha.
Sure. Hoo-ha?
It's a strange-looking animation. It's not a projectile, actually. It won't come out on block, I don't believe. Or it won't come out on whiff, at least.
It's a stand from JoJo.
Yeah, but Yoshimitsu is, at least it's new. Love it or hate his new design, it's new. It's something different.
Yeah,
You know,
I like but that's a returning character with a new costume. I'm specifically talking about the new
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah, I'm not a
I
fan
mean,
of new characters
the
either.
downside of the fact that they reinvent the wheel every time they make a new MK game is, if Deadly Alliance's engine had been better, Armageddon would be a really good idea. Like, if they could just take an engine and keep adding characters, there is like in the MK universe, that's a good thing to do, because there's so many fucking characters who never get their due, because every time a game comes out they can only fit 30.
And that wouldn't be hard. You really only have to do two things to save the Deadly Alliance Deception engine. A, give people a dash. Those games had no dash. That mobility was just really restrictive in those games because they wanted people to use the sidestep. The second problem is everything.
The thing
Everything
that
was
bothers me
unsafe.
the most about the Deadly Alliance engine is the dial of combos are so stiff and restrictive. I really like the thing they started doing with versus DC, where you could combo into and out of your special moves.
The thing that I
think they
remember
could've
most
fixed
people
that,
actually really disliking about the 3D era was the whole, no matter where I went, people just were up in arms and in flames about the universal tracking system. It made it feel still like 2D on a 3D platform, except kind of not.
And that was for noobs. They always wanted to make a very
MK
accessible game.
I mean, I think there's an argument to be made that MK never should have gone 3D, except it had to, because at the time it did, 2D games were no longer selling.
And it paid off too. People don't remember it, but those games sold really well, like 500,000 copies. That was good for a fighting
they
game
did
in the
good
dark
at the time.
ages.
The only reason that they're viewed as
Yeah,
critical
they're remembered poorly now because they didn't age well gameplay wise, and a lot of the characters never caught on, but
pretty well.
they did sell really well for what they were. It's just, I think, there's a matter of hindsight and legacy, and what I'm really saying is I wish the MK9 engine, like, you could just keep that and keep adding characters until you've got like 40 or 50, like Ultra Street Fighter 4.
I like that too, but then people would be useless.
Mm.
You're going to have straight up useless people in there that can't win a match with a roster that size. It's an unfortunate reality.
Even Armageddon, there's only like 3 viable characters, really. It never really went beyond that. Everyone else pretty much had the same.
Who can't win a match don't deserve to, like Baraka.
Although Baraka, I remember being pretty good in Deception, at least at the semi-moderate level. Competitively, no one knows what Deception looks like because it had no tournament scene.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a point to trying to create tiers for Deception.
Yeah, we know who had the infinites, and we know who had the ridiculous combo off throws for no reason tactics, like Noob Smoke had a ridiculous throw that he got a free combo off of because why not? And I don't know. I feel like variations in many ways are the spiritual successors of styles or
Yeah, I mean there's definitely, you can see the parallel because there's 3 of them, and I just think that
there's 3 of them.
Yeah. Well, when it's a mechanic that changes your gameplay.
I thought it would be cool if, like, when you reach like 25% life in the 3rd round, if you got all your specials from all variations. I thought that would be a really cool mechanic. People don't like comeback factors, but I don't know. I think that's a bandwagon mentality. I don't really mind comeback factors. I feel like if you look at all the big comeback factors in fighting games, I feel like they made the games better, not worse. I was and am very pro X Factor. I think Ultras is anyone really bitching about Ultra? I mean, is there a faction of people who don't like Ultras in Street Fighter 4? I don't know.
There might be. I don't know. I'm not really like. The thing about the fighting game community is, as a Mortal Kombat fan, I'm not really a part of it because it's 90% Street Fighter. Like, the culture is all Street Fighter when you talk about the FGC. And like, I don't have anything against Street Fighter. I don't know the crowd.
There is a sizable amount of people who do not like Ultras, and I guarantee you they feel the exact same about X-Rays. Hell, a lot of casual people really don't like seeing them as 50 to 40% damage instant recovery moves, Especially, well, in the Street Fighter community, the people who don't like the ultras are more like, I did this damage, and Jesus Christ, they're killing. I mean, I'm killing them, and they're just being rewarded for my kicking the crap out of them, and there goes my life bar. That's the sentiment I see every so often.
I don't really know if I agree with that, because the damage on an Ultra always seemed reasonable to me. No one seems to have a really broken Ultra. I mean, Rose is probably the greatest example of an Ultra that's just like, fuck, this is not fun anymore. And that's Orbs, of course, but I've never seen anyone say, you know, if it wasn't for fucking Ultras, I would have won that match. I don't really think it's a comeback factor as it is a really good tool that you access after you get beat up a lot. You know, you don't get to land your Ultra for free. Unlike X Factor, where you're twice as fast, sometimes 3 times as fast, you do substantially more damage. Level 3 X Factor pretty much makes any character in the game have 100% combos. Anyone. So that I see the criticisms. I still don't agree, but I see where they're coming from. With Ultras, I'm like, it's just an extra tool. No one's really bodying 100% live characters with an Ultra combo, but I don't know. I'm trying to say Ultras and not Ultra combo because that takes my brain to KI land. So
yes.
it's hard to hit that switch, but they listened. We're seeing fighting games without comeback mechanics, and X-Ray I don't consider it a comeback mechanic because you lose your breaker. You use a tool and you give up your best tool debatably. So I've never seen X-Rays as a comeback mechanic. But
yeah. There's a lot of like, you know, meter management in Mortal Kombat is very give and take.
And I love it. But honestly, like I'm sort of in the minority. I don't like breakers in fighting games in general. I think if I landed a setup successfully, you shouldn't be able to get out of it. I should be able to keep that momentum. As
a guy who is pretty constantly on the end of an over 30 damage juggle from you, I want more breakers. I want the Killer Instinct mechanic, where if I press the right button at the right time, I don't even need meter, I can just get out.
But imagine if I counter break you.
It's not fun to spend the entire match bouncing in the air where you can't actually input anything and fight back.
Yeah, you are bouncing. There's definitely a bounce factor with Shinnok's combos. But if I have the damage buff from Imposter and I get a counter breaker, that's going to be like a 70% combo, though. So do you want just the breakers, or do you want the counter breakers in there too?
It depends on how hype it looks when you do them, I think. That's Killer Instinct's best at.
Well, I want there to be some sort of penalty for doing a combo breaker, because in the old games, the old KI games, you had to use unbreakable combos or your character wasn't viable. That's how powerful the breaker system was. So I feel like there's a balancing factor even with combo breakers. You've got to have that balance in there. There has to be a risk. I don't want people to get them for free. I mean, there's lockouts, but I don't think lockouts are enough.
Maybe there's some sort of middle ground you could find where, like, if a breaker only took 1 bar instead of 2, so at least you could get them off more often.
Oh, that would be broken in my opinion. You get a full meter leads to 3 breaker opportunities. I don't know, man. Because Johnny Cage would just fucking fisticuff his way to 3 bars and you would never be able to damage him, like, ever. So, yeah, I don't know. People want 1 bar of meter for block breakers, and I think that's fair. I don't know if I'm for it. Again, I feel like if I was able to open you up and get in, I should be rewarded for that. I don't think you should be able to get me out for 1 bar of meter. But I see the logic behind it. That sounds fair to me. And with Quan Chi in this game, I can understand how that would make the game better, but...
I don't know, it's just, my concern is, and we've talked about this while we were playing, I really think MKX is a lot less casual friendly than MK9 was, and, you know, there's the gap in the skill curve between, like, somebody who's an expert and somebody who's just sort of a button masher is a little too wide, I feel like, and I wish there was some way to stay competitive when you're up against a guy who can get 30% plus damage in a combo and you don't know those combos, or you're not good at, like, the timing on a juggle.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite. Like, MK9 wasn't like this. In MK9, the gap between intermediate and beginner was relatively small, and the gap between intermediate and expert was very large. In this game, the gap between beginner and intermediate is gigantic, and the gap between intermediate and expert is much smaller. So mean, there's little things that make it so much harder. Like, even if you master Johnny Cage's bread and butter, sometimes Nut Punch will just whiff. Sometimes, even if it's within the hitbox, it doesn't work. And no one knows why. And if you're a beginner and you train so hard and your bread and butters aren't landing, and even worse, they're making you unsafe. Like, if you do a full bread and butter and go into Nut Punch and it doesn't connect, you're in dangerous territory. That sucks. So little things like that make this game unnecessarily harder. Cross-ups for some reason, not for some reason, but the hitbox on cross-ups is just crap. I don't know why they went that direction, but it's hard to land a cross-up sometimes in this game, so... And just... yeah, go on.
The other thing I've noticed, and this is just sort of a general... there's a lot more moves that require 3 direction inputs, like, for example, Jax's multi-slam. Maybe this is just a me problem, but I've played the game on both consoles now, and I find that neither D-pad is at all good for this shit.
Well, that shit just needs to go, to be honest with you. Mike Z gave a whole panel on what fighting games are doing wrong right now.
And there's no reason the multi-slam needs to be harder to do than other moves. Like, it doesn't do that much more damage. The bicycle kick is not so special anymore that it needs to have a different input than everything else like it did back in MK2.
It's arbitrary bullshit. It's just a way to arbitrarily raise the execution
arbitrary is the
level. Perfect
word for it.
I don't know, guys. When I used to mash high punch, I felt like I really deserved that 40% extra damage that those throws did. I worked for those throws. I really did.
Good times. So we'll see. I mean, thank God. I mean, even if people don't like Skullgirls, the creator Mike Z is making such brilliant waves in how we do netcode, how we design fighting games, and how we design UI. UI is so bad for fighting games. It took Street Fighter like 3 iterations to finally put a button check on the fucking character select screen. What? There were games doing that in the 90s, I thought. Like, what the fuck is going on? So Mike Z is like, get rid of half circle inputs. There's no reason to do them. It's just an arbitrary restriction, and it makes your inputs more ambiguous, you know? Which is why I hate alternate controls. That would be my control, standard. But why are you making me do a half circle instead of a back forward? I didn't go to alternate controls because I was having a problem with back forwards. I went to alternate controls because you made my fucking inputs too lenient on the quarter circles. So yeah, I want diagonals. Don't fuck with my back forward inputs. I mean, what?
All I'm saying, dude, is I'm a Vega and a Guile player that plays on a controller. If we're gonna complain about irritating and unnecessary move inputs, I'm gonna squeeze ahead of you in front of the line here, because I've been going down, back, down, forward, down, back, up, forward, and kick, and then down and punch since I was like 16 here. That shit's gotta stop.
There's no reason
That's
for it.
That's messed up. It really is.
It's not like Vega and Guile are fucking broken or anything. It's not like this character's too good. We got to raise the execution bar now. Like, no, it's...
Well, to be fair, Vega was kind of nasty in CVS2 and Alpha 3.
Oh, that's true. Even in Super Turbo, he was really good too.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm stuck in 209. So
4 is like the first time where Vega's actually been questionable, really questionable.
Yeah, it's interesting because right until the game came out in development, he was the best character in the game supposedly. And right before the game went out the door to the arcades, they're like, okay, we got to tone down Vega. And maybe they were right, but man, did he struggle.
I understand it. I really do.
He's a hard character to balance,
Too much walk speed, he's the best. Not enough, he struggles. C'est la vie.
And he's just scary. You're afraid to press buttons against him because he has so much full screen control, He slips on KTP often compared Injustice Scorpion to Super Turbo Vega. And his argument was that sometimes a character, that is their style. They just shut down fundamentals. Obviously, I don't agree with that. I don't think an entire style should be based on shutting down fundamentals. But there's a middle ground, of course, so... I mean, we beat the Injustice Scorpion debate into the ground at this point. That pretty much covers everything I had to say about variations. I guess, as a summary, I think they make the game better. I think the biggest problem everyone has with them is the execution, not the concept. I think there's easy compromises that can be made with the aesthetics, with the tools, to make everybody happy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was a fun experiment, and if that's all it was an experiment, one of Ed's, let's try this for this game, and then we'll do something different for the next game, I'm okay with that. If they return, I would need to see some sort of change to them that justifies them more, where like they're tied to the story, or they don't steal from characters who should be coming back, like how, you know, Katana uses wind tornadoes and shit, and that, you know, that's Fujin's gig, stuff like that.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I'm actually grateful for Mournful, because I really did like playing as Jade. So it is cool that I have some variation of Jade's strategy in this game. I do like that.
If as a creator you're really, really committed to that character will not be in this game, and there's maybe a story reason for that with Jade that we see in her ending, where like, oh, she's this ghost who's possessed by that crystal lady from MK9, and she's gonna, in the next game, that's when she'll come back and she'll do important stuff, so right now she's on the sidelines for this one, whatever. But, like, Fujin should be in this fucking game. Katana doesn't need to steal his fucking, you know, get off his Kool-Aid, motherfucker.
Yeah, Jade's a funny story in general. I mean, she's a soul who's possessing Katana. There's an exhibit joke in there somewhere.
That's fucking weird.
We heard you like possession, so we possessed your possession so you can be possessed while you're possessed? I don't know.
Yeah.
See Exhibit's bright-ass smile. But yeah, Shadowloo, what do you got? Any final thoughts?
Sup, dog? We heard you like staffs, so we put a staff on your fan so you can poke while you blow.
Poking and blowing.
Everything I say comes out filthy, doesn't it? I wasn't even trying that time.
It's not a bad thing. Embrace it.
No, I mean, it's gonna come.
It's
The variations are gonna come back. They really do seem hung up on this whole one character, multiple different ways to kill thing that they've been. I mean, this even goes back to MK4. Look, guys, we have weapons now we can pick up. Just they'll keep bringing it back. Maybe it'll take holidays every now and then. But I think that you can count on seeing it again.
I'm so afraid that the creativity well is going to dry up, because while you're thinking for 20 moves for Scorpion, then you create a new character, or you bring back, like, okay, let's say you come up with all this cool acrobatic capoeira shit for, like, Cyrax, and then you bring Kai back. What's he going to do now? That's what I'm afraid. They need to, like, if you front load all the characters you do have, then it's going to be harder to come up with new ideas every time you add another character who wasn't there.
I think they should be actually. I think they really should be actually looking a little bit more towards Reptile for things like this. Not all the way, maybe perhaps not the extreme that Reptile is at, but maybe just giving a character 3 different sets of gimmicks or something would be a nice thing to consider. Bring it more along those lines, not quite as restrictive or gimmicky, but, you know, that one major feature that he has between each of his 3 variations. I don't know. It might help. Yeah. It might help to, at the very least, be a little bit more beginner-friendly.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely agree with that. I mean, Reptile sort of seems a little boring compared to everybody else in this game, because his variations just give him a trick and everything else is the same.
That's the thing. It's not because he's bad. It's just everyone else has just so much to work with and so much to choose from.
And again, the one that really bothers me, the one that drives me crazy, is Takeda. Okay, so he's got the whips. That's a solid concept. He also throws kunais. Fine, he's a ninja. He's also got Scorpion's teleport punch, even though he's not a dead guy, so how's he doing? Never mind. And then he's got a fucking laser sword that shoots lasers.
Which RPG was it where, like, you could actually equip your character and then you could actually visually see the things that they had equipped? What? There was an RPG that was like this. What fucking one was it? But you get what I'm talking about here, right?
Yeah.
Takeda looks like he got fucking equipped after murdering the entire, like, cast of robot masters of one Mega Man game.
He has more weapons than Sector and Cyrax without the infinite pocket in his chest.
Was one of those 8 bosses Ralph Macchio Man? Is that how he got the hair? I don't know. Just wondering. Okay, well, Cyborg made his peace with variations. We all know where he stands, of course. I don't know if we're going to get to the comic today, guys, because I've only got reasonably about 25 minutes left, unfortunately.
Okay,
Here's the thing, if we did do the comic, we'd have to cover 3 issues, because 2 accidentally got released on the same day, Sunday.
Arguably, I'd say 2.5 because fucking not a lot happened in 24.
Yeah,
24 was
yeah.
gigantic Kenshi, Havoc Scorpion fight. But you know what? I think that we can wait till next time and maybe devote an episode to it.
Yeah,
We also got
we
Tanya,
don't really have
too.
much lined up for 2 weeks.
I think
from now,
that-
so we can probably
I
do
think
a
that we
big,
should,
a big dump
yeah.
of comic stuff then.
All right, then let's go straight to Tanya then, because I'm excited. I
Me
like
too.
my girl.
She's really growing on me. Like I was
She's
really
terrifying.
negative on her, like from a design standpoint, her moves when she was first released on the stream. She's got the Sonya problem where she has so much shit it doesn't all go together and it doesn't have a story behind it. It doesn't really make sense.
I was
But
talking
to
to my girl.
actually play her, she's really fun.
I was talking to my girlfriend about it, and you know what? She provided a plausible thing about the Naginata that I really liked. Like, I don't remember which group it was, but in Japan, a lot of historically, apparently, a lot of schoolgirls in Japan learn how to use Naginatas as self-defense as a matter of course during their classes, and I'm okay with that. I'm not gonna, say that's the canon explanation, but I mean, the fact that anyone would have basic military training with a weapon like that's good enough for me.
Well, here's the thing. Like, with Tanya, she has so many weapons over the course of her history, it's like she's Edgemaster from Soul Calibur. And I'd be okay with that if they'd say so in her story, but they've never, explained it.
Well, I don't know about a lot, man, because, the boomerang was so stupid. I think I think that they want to forget that she ever had a boomerang.
And yet they make her tonfas return when she throws them.
They want to give you the characteristics of it, but you don't want to actually have her walk in.
I'd rather have a boomerang shape with a boomerang than a tonfa that returns to my hand, because that's just dumb. Tonfas
boomerangs are cool,
not the
too,
right
dude.
shape to ever do that.
Dude, Kung Lao's hat says hi.
Well, Kung Lao's hat is magic, and round things can ricochet off stuff real easy, like, Captain America's shield. A tonfa is not the right shape to either arc when you throw it or ricochet back to you.
How about Daredevil's Billy Club?
Just magic. Just magic.
Daredevil's got powers. His enhanced sense of touch makes him good.
Razor.
Never question
Stop.
anything in Mortal
Stop.
Kombat.
Stop. It's just...
That's just, you can ass pull it. You can't ass pull anything Tanya does. Like, why is she a pyromancer? And the thing is, there's a really easy window to explain it. You could say that she's either related to or trained under worshippers of Delia, the Edenian Lady of Flame. But there's fucking nothing.
You can even tie a NetherRealm storyline in there.
That's why I wanted her to have the black and purple fire from MK4, because in MK4 she was related to the Brotherhood of Shadow, like she was receiving Sorceress Apprentice training from Quan Chi.
And
But
she got
obviously
it,
that's
too.
not the
She
case
has
in
it in
this game.
Pyromancer. Well, kinda. It's
Yeah,
dust.
like she sorta has, she has that move where she covers
She's got
you
the
in blue
properties.
aura and it enhances her fireballs. And I think, her brutality, where it leaves the glowing purple skeleton behind, is, my favorite thing about her in the entire game. It looks
thing
so
is
cool.
so neon. It hurts your eyes to look at, and it's kind of wonderful.
But there's no explanation for why she, her story is she's an Edenian rebel. The end. There's nothing.
And I think, it's funny. We say Devora may have ripped off Tanya, but I feel like Tanya kind of ripped off Devora. No motive.
Dun, dun, dun.
Why did she do anything? I don't know. Why she has no motive.
Apparently, the most believable, plausible explanation here is that she actually really, really believes in it and wants to support Melina. And if you look at a lot of her,
She
intros,
wants to support Melina because Melina promised to bring Edenia back. And it makes sense for.
that's the thing. If you look at a lot of her dialogue, she's really pro-Edenian. She talks to Katana, it's like Edenians shouldn't be fighting against each other. So it looks like they really are making her out to be a kind of pro-Edenian person nowadays, rather than predictable traitor number 2.
I feel like the ending throws a lot of that out, though. Once you see the ending, I feel like all that goes down the disposal.
Well, she's
Yeah,
still
the
a
thing
traitor.
The thing is, Tanya's priorities do sort of make sense. It's like myself number 1, Edenia number 2. So in a situation where it's do this to survive, yeah.
It's mafia logic. It's the family,
is,
your country, then your god.
Tanya's this character where, you could connect stuff, they just haven't. For example, her loyalty to Edenia and the idea that she grew up in the rebellion. You could have, if you had remade MK4 straight, made her motivation in MK4 tie into that, where, you could say the reason she turned on Edenia is because she was, why should I be like a subject to this princess who used to kill our people for Shao Kahn? Like, she could be like against Sindel and Kitana, but not against her realm, and that's why she wants to overthrow them and take it over for herself.
Yeah, I'd be behind
But
that.
they just never do that. They never.
Cool. Never.
Hello?
Never would she ever.
I just left that sentence hanging because I keep saying the same thing over and over again. They never tie the threads together. They never
My internet
give
dropped.
her a second dimension.
Thought that was some sort of strange double ice backfire. Okay. Anyhow, what do you think about that ending? Because I was actually Razor half expecting you to start questioning why the fuck they'd set a water elemental on fire.
That is well, historically speaking, burning rain has had some success.
Because I was about to be like, while he could be in terrible agony, he could be, evaporating off and escaping and doing an ice
I mean, if Rain
It's
was
actually-
smart, he'd teleport right off that fucking stake, but...
It actually really is like the perfect way to like play the he's dead card and then have him and then bring him back later logically. Because he can really get out of that.
What's
So
interesting
I'm not
about
as
that?
Well,
I'm not as upset
like
about it.
it's automatic canon, but it's an arcade ending, so fuck it.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
It would have
It might be
painted Tanya in a
elements
much
of it.
better light, because Tanya could have been like, "Come on, Rain, do your water thing. Don't just
Yeah.
burn."
They should have... Well, let's talk about the other thing from her ending, the fact that she's sleeping with Rain. And the fact that,
Yeah.
according to some of the intros, she might be sleeping with Melina, too.
Yeah. Now
I
is
know
the
a lot of
Now the question is Melina sleeping with Rain?
Well, they're
I
definitely
hope
close
so.
in the comic.
I want that to be canon. Just because,
And
she says he's
Melina
a
doesn't
satisfactory
really-
concert.
She's not
satisfactory-
discriminating in her
No, she's
tastes. It's like, you're there, you're not running away from my face, let's do this.
But I just believe that, like, if this is a thing, if Melina and Rain are also shacking up, that whenever Tanya and Melina are getting together, they just make fun of his penis for hours on end.
See, I thought Rain would be invited to the party. I thought Rain would be in the room, wearing a zebra outfit or some shit.
I'm sort of with Shad on this one, just because I really think that deep voice Rain has is overcompensating.
He was a satisfactory consort. That's polite for he was terrible in the sack. I'm sorry, Rain fans.
That's
I'm
not
sorry.
something you say when you're really happy with the service you're receiving.
So,
It
so
was satisfactory.
was it good for you? Satisfactory. I'm getting up to get some toast. Would you care for some?
Another way of saying you were
actually-
present.
Pretty much.
I hope it's a motif now that Rain gets badly burned in every game from now on forever. 'Cause I think that's hilarious now. But
Oh, Rain. Always a joke in some level. Always. He's
It's
come so-
ironic because
Yeah.
both of his brothers use fire.
Poor bastard.
here's a question: do we like playing as Tanya? Do we think she's fun?
Oh my god, yes. Are you crazy? Get the fuck
What?
out.
What variations? I mean, I agree, but what variation are you using, Chad?
Kobujutsu. Right off the bat, Kobujutsu. I've fallen in love with it.
Kubujutsu is the one that I'm not using. Like, I really like the other two. I
Pyromancer
spent
is-
a little too much time pogo sticking to actually be effective with the Naginata, but
The Pogo Naginata, it's good, but I feel like it doesn't have a lot of huge damage, and that's probably for the
yeah,
best.
that's why I like
It's-
Pyromancer.
yeah.
If you get the dark whatever and then shoot a fireball, I think that's the most damage she gets in one shot.
17%. It's really good.
And she's got a combo that like will end automatically in a fire property. It's like back 3, 1, and then 2. It's like a little ankle kick and then to a 1-2 with the second punch coming out as like a flaming fist, which will take the damage properties of a fireball. If like
So
if
it'll
they're on
trigger
fire.
the blue aura.
Yeah.
Okay, well, for a really good chip too.
Nice.
That's my variation. I use a lot of Pyromancer. I am struggling with Tanya though. I'm having a lot of issues with her because I feel like I'm playing 3 characters. I'm playing this one character who's supposed to get up close, have ridiculous mix-ups, but there's so many options. I have trouble keeping them in line. I'm like, I confuse myself when I play as Tanya. Then I have this other character who has this insane neutral game where I have to learn all my options everywhere if I want to teleport effectively, and so like I said, I just confuse myself. I'm like, all right, I'm at this placement. That means I can do this, but after that, I have to make another decision. It's got to be the right decision. So if I make the wrong, so it's like, oh god, and then the third layer to all of that affects all our variations, in my opinion, are just her inputs. You have to know so many fucking inputs with this character, and I get them confused. And I mean, I don't know how many times I did the right teleport, but the wrong projectile. I did, like, okay, I teleport forward, I did the far fireball, and it just went right over his head, all fucking input Eric Kung Jin style. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine,
she's a little confusing.
It's a lot to take in. Nothing about her in a vacuum is difficult, but just putting it all together is a real challenge with her. She's fun though, and I love her. Like aesthetically, I love looking at her combat. She's really cool with the pogo stick and that badass Sandy teleport.
I love all the high kicks and like her intro where she like does the scorpion leg behind her, where she's like doing a split standing up and all that shit.
Just flips everywhere.
Graphically, I love everything they've done with her, except for the pyromancer tattoos. That doesn't make sense. But
yeah, I don't like any I don't like any variation marking ever. Like none of them have really been good to me.
Like Ethereal Melina and the pink marks on her arms and all that sort of shit. The only guy whose tattoos actually fit the character are Kodokan because he was designed with them.
I guess I'm kind of okay with Sorcerer Quan Chi, but I just like the color scheme.
I mean, I like the idea of it. I don't think the execution of the glowing purple works right. And maybe it's his eyes is the problem. Like, I don't know why they need to glow too.
I don't think we'll have to worry about him for quite some time, though. He's gone now. I think he's going to be taking a long break, Quan Chi is.
Good. I won't miss him. I will not miss him one bit.
It would be nice to have him on the shelf for a while.
Well, the nice thing is about Tanya, bringing this back to someone I give a shit about. God, I fucking hate Quan Chi. Just the glory and the pleasure of being directly up above them, a little bit ahead of them, and knowing you have to make them guess. You have two options before you. Do you split? Do you drill? High or low, motherfucker? It's a wonderful choice to force someone to make.
I love the mobility she has in the air with those teleports. It's like, I compared it to Pikachu's quick attack in Smash.
That's beautiful, actually. I strongly agree with that. That's accurate.
And just the fact that you can get a neutral jump punch after teleporting in. What the fuck?
If I did have to have one complaint about her moves, I'm really, really bummed she doesn't have the sit on your shoulders and twist your neck.
Which was a very big oversight.
I was hoping for that as part of the X-ray straight up. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I mean, she almost does it, but then she does a Hurricane Rana instead, and I'm like, oh, fuck you.
Clearly they remembered to do it, because they're halfway there, so they had it in mind. They even referenced it on the stream, but they didn't do it, so... Yeah. Although that said, I like both her fatalities quite a bit. I think both her fatalities are very good.
A lot of people
I like the utilization of the high heels. I like any character who's like, hey, everybody who says fighting in heels is unrealistic, fuck you.
And fuck your stomach, and then your face.
Heels are a useful artistic tool. They make a character look elegant.
And she knows how to make them painful. A lot of people are having problems with that back, forward drill fatality of hers. This is where folks who really do have to go old school MK and hold the block button while you're making those inputs.
What I've found works is it's just if you back, you'll dash backward. And then if you forward, you'll dash forward. And then you'll be in position again, so you have to be really slow on the button press at the end. But it'll work.
With me, I've held block, gone back, forward, released block, hit the button, and I've never failed once. Which is perfect for me, because that's the way I've entered fatalities since time immemorial.
The ones that really, the only fatalities inputs I really have a problem with are Shinnok's, because they have ups in them.
Have you noticed that? Tanya, Shinnok, the MK4 characters are, I think, they're the only characters that are getting, 5 separate, direction inputs and no button at the end. I might be wrong.
Tang has one that's directions with no button.
Okay, then never mind.
I find those easy when you don't have an up in the middle.
Yeah, Katana or Kenshi, I think, have just directions. One of them does.
Because that was a real MK4 thing to do, was have her fatality be composed of 6 different direction buttons and then maybe your actual button input.
Well, in theory, I really like the ones that are either all directions or 4 direction and block, because then when you screw them up, you don't accidentally kick the guy and end the match.
Which, in a way, I like. I like the idea that a screwed up fatality looks like a shitty normal.
Yeah, like
Your character
I
just falls
slap the
over.
guy, and that's my finisher. Take that.
It's so classic, because everyone knows that image.
At the same time, I don't want to be the guy who did it.
I do. That's what I do now.
There was a Penny Arcade comic about that.
Yeah, yeah.
He's in your
Oh god,
sights.
everybody's watching me.
It's time to
Now's my
destroy him.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Raiden going, yeah.
I saw that. That was fucking glorious. Yeah, well, just to rewind a little bit, Jason's having a lot of tournament success. Jason's doing really well. With Relentless, actually. His Relentless style is getting a lot of mileage in Slasher too, but a lot of people are really making Relentless work. Because what they're doing is they're doing that teleport on Wake Up, so it fucks with their inputs, or if it does come out, it whiffs, and God, his damage is so good too, and it's really cool to... I was saying it was useless, so I take everything I said back, but his armored move that puts him in a stun state at the end after it fades, people are using that once they get down the other character down to like 25%, and then they body him. There's like nothing the other character can do. It's really cool. A lot of really cool meta stuff with Jason. I'm never going to use him, but I like what I'm seeing so far. So that's cool.
All right. Yeah. Glad my boy is doing well in the tourney scene. Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty sexy. He's making things happen.
He's
What variation are people liking?
Relentless.
Relentless? Okay.
It's a really good Kansas song called Relentless.
Did they do Carry On My Wayward Son, or was that someone else?
Nope, that's them.
Okay.
No, that's Kansas.
I'm a huge Kansas fan. They're like my third favorite band of all time.
Carry On
I
Wayward
love
Son's
Kansas.
the only Kansas song I know off the top of my head.
I would check out Child of Innocence, and I would check out Pinnacle. I would also check out what's another good one? Icarus, Wings of Steel. It's also really good. I could do this for a while, so I'll stop. But there's a lot of good Kansas out there. I fucking promise you guys.
Well, was there anything else on Tanya you guys want to talk about?
No, I pretty much covered everything I had.
I'm good.
All right.
She's definitely going to be my secondary main, I think. I'm liking what I'm seeing.
All right. Well then, it is the noise has lowered and people aren't saying as much, so I'm assuming everyone's gotten what they wanted out.
Yeah, I think we got to everything.
Okay, other than the comic, which, like I said, we'll get to that.
We'll save that. It's probably best to save up several episodes or issues for one like big burst because so little happens in each one.
All right. So on that note, then we'll actually be finishing early. This is weird.
Dun dun dun.
It had to happen sometime.
But I mean, it's a good episode to do that. I know Temp has some plans for after the show, so we'll wrap it up here. And yeah, so thanks everyone, obviously, for subscribing, liking, following, subscribing, whatever the hell, on whatever, Twitter and all that business. But yeah, that'll do it for this episode, and see you on episode 32.
Take it easy, folks.
Lamplight Symphony. That's also a really good one by Kansas. I checked that out.
Oh, what Symphony of the Night?
There's some parallels. There's some definite connections there.
Is it about vampires?
Could be. It could be construed as such.
Are Kansas a miserable little pile of secrets?
What is a Kansas?
But enough talk. Have at you.
Justin would love this.
You will never win.